In case you didn't know, Twitter and the Genshin Impact communities have gone up in flames over the last couple weeks with controversy and drama after drama, and it's just getting absolutely insane. I'm going to recap for some of you what actually has gone on, and I want to focus on what those of us who are excited for the future of Wuthering Waves can learn from previous game community mistakes. So let's get into it. Let's take a look. Now, I think to no one's surprise, a central figure in all of this conflict has been Tectone. No, that's not me trying to call him out as a drama farmer or anything like that. Just, I think a lot of people are not very surprised that Tectone is found at the center of this controversy. But where all this controversy, I think personally started, was a couple weeks ago from a tweet from Ziox. Ziox made a meme tweet, The Duality of Man, where he's showing the difference between Doro44's content and his content, and one taking a much more overtly positive approach, and Tectone's cynical approach, and kind of seeing the contrast for it, which led to a decent amount of drama within the community and people calling out both sides. You know, Genshin stans calling out Tectone for being too negative, and then other Genshin antis calling out Doro for being too positive. Now, this went on for a couple days, with Doro releasing a few tweets saying he doesn't care about people, about how they feel about his positivity, because he's still genuinely positive about Genshin as a whole, despite some of his own criticisms. In the midst of all that, he then dropped another tweet where he was talking about Wuthering Waves and how he wanted it to go toe-to-toe with Genshin and how it was going to help Genshin develop. And a lot of people then took this the wrong way, calling out you, Wuthering Waves community, as being kind of like a stepping stone, something to take advantage of to help Genshin actually be better, but not actually care about Wuthering Waves. I think there was a little bit of an overreaction from the Wuthering Waves community. That's just my take on it. I don't think that's what he was trying to say. But regardless, his Wuthering Waves tweet snowballed into some other conflict, which then resulted in more drama, which then culminated in Tectone making a video about Doro44 and him upsetting the Wuthering Waves community, where he recaps everything that's taken place. Now, they ended up having some DMs, burying the hatchet, and they're totally fine. They both just kind of agree to look at it in a different way. Doro has his own criticisms and has been admittedly a little more vocal recently about those criticisms, but still taking a fairly positive angle to it, where Tectone has still been keeping his, trademark, very brash, off the cuff, straight shooter approach to it, which definitely rubbed some people the wrong way, but they continued on. And I will say, it seems like, at least from public perception, they've been doing really well, where Doro's got some tweets, Tectone makes some memes, Doro responds. It seems like overall there's a fairly cordial interaction happening between them. But the results of this little skirmish is that there were embers. There were embers on the battlefield that were waiting to ignite again into a fire. And oh my gosh, did that fire come blazing. Shortly after all that took place, Tectone released a video talking about why he was not going to be playing 4.4, criticizing Genshin, the company, the rewards, and the content that was being released along with it, and even went on to talk about how CN is also pretty upset about the recent rewards and everything being released along with it, which resulted in a boycott and other things that people are encouraging other players to do, to not spend or play the game, so that Hoyoverse can hear them and that change can actually come. But as I said, Tectone's personality is very brash, and it definitely does not go well with some other content creators. And it definitely led to some more criticism on Twitter, where then it snowballed into another response video from Tectone, where he talked about how his disappointment is immeasurable, where he was talking about being canceled. And in this one, he came out at a little more guns blazing. He started calling out content creators who are hype beasting Genshin, trying to hype it up as the best game that's available, when in actuality, they're frustrated with it, and they aren't willing to talk about it on their main channels. Some cases, some having some alternate Twitch channels where they're actually a little more honest, or in some cases on other YouTube channels as well, where they're a little more honest, but on their main channels, their main line of communication, they will never actually let that side show. And Tectone kind of called that out in a way that did not go well with a lot of other people. And again, nobody by name, but I think people were making some inferences. In a development that seemed like one of the most insane self-reports that I've ever seen, the Genshin Avengers came out of the woodworks and all started attacking Tectone for his take. And one of the most surprising was coming from Fob, where he released a thread very much criticizing Tectone for his approach, things that he's saying, and making some fairly rough accusations beyond simply conduct and how he carries himself, to straight up calling him out in a more insulting way. One that I think personally, I'm not gonna lie, is pretty out of pocket is on his 5 of 6 of his major Twitter thread was, as somebody whose livelihood was saved off the back of Miz and OTK, you should know better than to go for their livelihood, which, like, I don't know, it seems a little out of pocket, seems a little off base, because, like, again, I'm not going to get in here and try and be taking, like, major sides in all of this, because ultimately the video is not about that. I want just to cover what has gone on. But I just have to say, I think that's a little out of pocket, not gonna lie. This then spurs on another response from Tectone, though, where he goes on to talk about how he got fully canceled. He addresses the full thread and breaks down through it, and Tectone giving a very honest response for how he felt about being called out by Fob and his responses to them, which then resulted in a response from Atsu, who released a long Twitter thread, which then resulted in another response video from Tectone breaking down the thread from Atsu. And so now everyone's going full mask off right now. There was a little bit of like people addressing each other a little bit in private. You know, I think there was some inferences maybe to certain creators at different times. All bets are off at this point. Just everybody's calling out everybody at this point. MTash has even been weighing in, and I will say a fairly balanced way in how he approached it. He kind of called out both sides for their own personal shortcomings. It's a really interesting take overall, so I would actually suggest you check out MTash's take on it. Shout out to Dad Tash on that one. But as of the time of recording, Tectone's video response calling out Atsu was only from 7 hours ago, so admittedly this is a still unfolding situation. Now, why do I think it's important to talk about this? Because I think there are certain things that we can learn about the whole community response for what's gone on around Genshin, and I think those of us who are fans of Wuthering Waves can learn something from it. What can we learn? First thing we learned is a lot of people don't like Tectone. I mean, especially the Genshin Avengers. But I think secondly, what we can learn about this is that those of us who are content creators and are fans who like to engage with the content online, whether that be in comment sections or in Twitter, and you're giving some feeds, or X or whatever the heck that platform's called at this point, that all of us from the get-go of this game need to be honest with our feedback, feelings, and opinions around Wuthering Waves. We should not be masking that. A lot of people get really excited for a game and they want to hype beast it, and that's totally fine if you're genuinely excited about everything that's going on. That's not a criticism here. But there are a lot of people who hype beast a game when there are things that need to be addressed, but it's kind of in their own personal self-interest to keep hype beasting that. We need to stop doing that because that's a short-term strategy for success. And I think that's exactly the problem that happened with Genshin Impact. Many people constantly kept praising Genshin Impact over and over and over again for the same things that led the game down a path to where it is now, which again, I think is fine. It's a casual game for casual players with a fairly interesting story, and that's totally fine. I'm not going to criticize Genshin Impact for what they've decided to become in terms of their overall gameplay style, but there are those of us who want something different out of Wuthering Waves. I think to get what we want as players, we need to have faith in the developer and what they can build, and be honest with how we feel about the direction of the things that they are creating. Kuro is a fantastic company in terms of listening to player feedback. I think the developer vlog that recently just dropped is an excellent sign of that. And so as we kind of move into CBT 2, and then leading up to the release of the full game, which is hopefully in Q3 of this year, provide honest feedback. Don't just hype beast the game or pump it up because you just really want to see it beat Genshin. It's just really gotta beat Genshin, guys. Like, look, Genshin will be what Genshin is. Wuthering Waves is its own thing, and to continue to foster a long-term success strategy around it, we need to give good, honest feedback across each other, within the community, and to the developers. Let me be clear, I'm not saying be negative. I'm not saying, oh, they did this one thing wrong, this sucks, I hate this game sucks, I'm going back to Genshin. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that kind of bullcrap. Don't twist my words. What I'm saying is you can give constructive feedback on something and it not be toxic. Wuthering Waves is primed and ready for that. That's what closed beta tests are for. It's for ironing out those things. And so be honest with your feedback. Be honest in the surveys. Don't be overly negative for the sake of being negative for clicks if you do happen to have a community of some kind, like on Twitter or YouTube for that matter. But also don't feign positivity about systems or things within the game that you aren't actually excited for. I'm not going to be the judge on what people are or are not actually excited for. I think that is a very interesting question to decide who is actually excited for what they're saying they're excited for. I'm not going to be the judge, jury, and executioner on that. But I will be the scout from the top of the mast saying that there is an iceberg ahead, saying this is something we need to watch out for. So I hope those of you that are excited for Wuthering Waves and excited for more Wuthering Waves content, listen to this, see what's happening in that community, and not bring that same degree of toxicity and conflict from within it into Wuthering Waves. The Genshin community and kind of orbiting community gets laughed at enough. I don't think we need to be sucked into that vortex. If any Genshin fans are still watching the video as up to this point, hey, kudos to you for actually listening to what I had to say and covering all of this. I do want to say again too, I'm not trying to criticize people who are fans of Genshin here. If you like Genshin, that's totally fine with me. I don't care. I don't care if you're excited about 4.4 and you want to go and play it, that's totally fine. That's not what I'm criticizing here. I just want that to be abundantly clear. Like what you want to like, okay? I really honestly don't care if you do like it. My warning, like I said, is for Wuthering Waves fans and for what's to come. Especially seeing as I see Wuthering Waves potentially being sucked into more conflict, especially as we approach its release, because there's going to be a lot of Wuthering Waves antis, probably from the Genshin community, that are going to come at it. They already have started. But let's not sink to that level. Let's be better than that. Let's be constructive, and let's just move on. But that's what I think about it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you agree, disagree? What do you think about that? Do you think there's actually something constructive that we can learn from the current infighting going on in the Genshin community? I would love your opinion in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.